virtual artist. Thanks for clicking and welcome to a little rundown on a surprisingly entertaining title. Such art. I had at least expected a life simulator where I got to play painter, but what I did not expect was to find it chock full of fun tools and possible techniques that replicate how paints can behave in real life. This game is like a first-person Microsoft Paint, but with guns. That's right, paintball guns. I didn't see that coming, but I'm delighted nonetheless. My paintings are going to look like something straight out of kindergarten, but despite my complete lack of artistic skill, this game has been soothing. I'll get into some of the science behind how art helps our brain after a rundown on such art's features. Let's get into the basics of it a little. Your DNA test has determined that you are an artist, even if you had no idea of your talent, and you are sent to a space station studio that's hovering above the Earth in order to fill your function as a creator in a world inundated with AI art pieces. You're here to bring back the emotion and individuality of art, a truly noble endeavor. Your studio is well equipped, including a computer and a comm system with which you can connect to your family members and your commissioning clients, or to order new supplies for projects. You already have several emails to greet you, and the first request is from your little sister for a unicorn. Now, it really doesn't matter your skill level at drawing or painting. It'll only need to look as presentable as you'd like it to be, so don't obsess too much if you're struggling with getting the lines just right with the mouse input. It's actually quite challenging. I wish I had one of those digital drawing pads, and I might invest in one just for the enjoyment of this game. It's actually been encouraging me to get a little bit more skilled in sketching. This game is quite a bit cheaper than spending money on real-life paints and canvas. We've already got one of the large canvas formats waiting for us in this tutorial unicorn project. We just need to visit the back of the studio for the machine that mixes all of the colors. And it's a ton of color options indeed. Wooden palettes can be found laying around the place. Just pick one of them up and place it underneath the spout of the color mixer. Select a color and push the button for a little or a lot of the shade. The arrows to either side will shift over the palette slightly so you can add more of the colors without mixing them together. These paints will actually blend together to create moderately different shades if you try. If you look around, you'll find some studio features that do make life a bit easier for first-person painting, like the buttons which raise or lower the ground beneath you alongside the organization area for storing tools that are not currently in your action bar. Beyond the brushes, we have a roller available, which is useful for coverage of much larger areas. I used it here to achieve a bright blue sky background. There is also a sponge tool. It's useful for not just creating a more textured look on paintings, but also used for cleaning your palettes or removing sponges off the walls. As you might have already spotted, the paint machine doesn't just have ready mix paints to dump onto the palette. There's also these handy tubes and spray cans with adjustable nozzles. Canvas is delivered direct, either through the control panel on the large studio wall for the bigger sizes, or through a control panel in the supply area for the smaller options. We get a few selections which can be rotated once placed for the portrait or landscape look that we're going for. If you're struggling for funding in the beginning, check the room that's adjoining the studio where deliveries arrive, as there are several storage bins and blank canvases to help get you started. Cleanup is a breeze, unless you've splattered your studio with color. To get remaining paint off the palettes, we just have to bust them over to the rear corner of the studio where there is a faucet, a mop, and a bucket. Run the pellets under water for a bit, then pick up the mop and squeegee them off really quick for a fresh surface to add more paint. A bucket full of water isn't just good for cleaning brushes, it can also act as an artistic benefit by thinning out paints or the sponge techniques. We can make some fairly fun artistic artworks with just these starter options, but there's more. Lots more found in the computer supply shop. Brushes of different sizes, sketching pencils, a magic eraser laser to disappear our slip-up mistakes, and so on. To order these supplies, visit your computer interface and go to the icon for Baba Zone to see the available inventory. Once you've got some adequate funding for fulfilling commissions, just order yourself some packages that come in through a room that's attached to the studio. This adjacent spot has two conveyor belts, one for the larger size and smaller size packages. It will tell you the number of incoming packages on the screen between the two belts. Just click for the one you want to activate and wait for a brightly wrapped box to tumble out. I would highly recommend getting the upgraded adjustable artist easel among the first of your purchases. For the small paintings, this addition to the story is fantastic. It comes in a two-part set of the easel and the control box for moving the height of the frame up and down as needed. It definitely saves you from having to paint in the most awkward of angles. If you've been collecting up unwanted or half-finished projects or tons of paint tubes, they can be disposed of in two different ways. Either through the pre-installed incinerator available near the window of the studio, but they can also be tossed out into the open space by opening the door inside of the delivery room. All you gotta do is slide the item under the door and it will disappear into space. Throughout the course of your commission quests, you'll obtain a camera and several gifts to decorate your studio. The camera allows you to take some screenshots, which will be stored on your computer interface for you to treasure for later. This way you can keep a copy of your works, even the ones you sent off as a commission, but for the paintings you'll keep, there is a full-fledged gallery, which can be accessed by using the VR headset that's located next to your computer. You're ported off to a whole new set of rooms, where you can do some customization and hang paintings sent to the gallery, give them frames and little name tags and everything like a proper museum atmosphere. Now, at some point through your quest lines and commissions, you'll be guided to take the elevator at the beginning of the game down to a much larger studio that looks like a massive spaceship storage locker. This is where we get to let loose our artistic creativity on some three-dimensional objects that come through our commission request transmissions. It contains many of the same elements of our upstairs studio with a slightly different layout. There's a paint mixer machine on the back wall and a conveyor belt that's adjacent to the wall where we can receive supplies we ordered off the computer. The ability to create these works just adds to the fun that you can have with your creations. But if you're bored, you can also just pick up a paint marker and shoot random colors at the object and call it abstract art. Maybe it will be worth putting in your gallery. Another fun addition to this game is a gift from your sister. It's a little pet bot that will keep you company as you create. It hovers around the studio and will do emotes at you. You'll find that it has its own app store inside the computer desktop in which you can purchase additional features, like giving it the ability to clean. There are also headbands with different looks in the shop to give it some additional character, and if you try hard enough, it will play with the beach ball, bouncing it back and forth to you. There's some furniture pieces in the shop as an afterthought. It's one way to spend all the money that you've earned through commissions when supplies no longer drain your account. There's also plenty of workshop purchases like extra bins, racks, ways to store your tools available, but it really isn't so much about interior decorating besides filling the walls with your own imaginative works. There has been a fairly recent update to the game that was also unexpected, the Miserable Artist DLC, which includes the addition of frames to adorn your paintings in the gallery and a setting with a jetpack that's easier maneuvering around large objects. As a miserable artist, you'll now encounter commissioners of your work that aren't always overjoyed with the results. Get ready for some brutal criticism, but if you really hate it, you can always disable it for the friendlier mode. Now, that's all about the key features and the basics of such art. There isn't a ton to it, but there doesn't need to be either. This is all about what you can do with the tools that you're provided, and there are plenty of them to create your own unique works. But this isn't the end of the video. Oh no, I thought I would take the opportunity of an art-based game to share some super fun information about humans and why arts even exist in the first place. Had you ever thought about it? Why do we make art? What drives us as a species to even do it? We aren't the only mammals that find it fun to do either. Have you ever seen rat paintings before? How about an elephant? What could possibly be prompting us to do this? Art has been one of our evolutionary mechanisms since the beginning of mankind, represented in paintings on cave walls and through hieroglyphic writings. The 2D and 3D art forms that were created by Upper Paleolithic Europeans at least 30,000 years ago are conceptually equivalent to those created in recent centuries, indicating that human cognition and symboling activity as well as autonomy were fully modern by that time. Even language itself is regarded as art. In all societies today, the visual arts are intimately intertwined with music, dance, ritual, marking life, landmarks, death, religion and politics, and language, poetry, song, and storytelling. Vocalization, ritualized movement, and visual display are part of the animal courtship and dominance competition, as well as human ritual and communication. So it is likely that the roots of music, dance, and body decoration lie deep in the evolutionary history of the animal kingdom. It's hard to imagine how we would even function in our current times without these cognitive abilities of art. Surely there must be a reason for why we started being artists, and there is. Besides being a necessary function of language, it also keeps our brains healthy. Here's some interesting examples of what art can do. In a study conducted by Professor Samir Zaki, chair of the neuroaesthetics at University of College London, participants of the study underwent brain scans while being shown images of paintings by major artists. The study found that when people viewed the art that they thought was most beautiful, blood flow increased by as much as 10% to the region of the brain associated with pleasure. But it can do so much more. I'll read some excerpts from a piece by Malaka Gharib from NPR. Art's ability to flex our imagination may be one of the reasons why we've been making art since we were cave dwellers, said Kamau, a professor at Drexel University and a researcher in art therapy. It might serve as an evolutionary purpose. She has a theory that art making helps us navigate problems that might arise in the future. She wrote about this in the October Journal of the American Art Therapy Association. Her theory built off of an idea developed in the last few years, that our brain is a predictive machine. The brain uses information to make predictions that we might do next, and more importantly, what we might need to do to survive and thrive, says Kamau. When you make art, you're making a series of decisions. What kind of drawing utensils to use, what color, how to translate what you're seeing onto paper, and ultimately interpreting the images, figuring out what it means. So what our brain is doing every day, every moment, consciously and unconsciously, is trying to imagine what's going to come and preparing yourself to face it, she says. For a lot of people, making art can be nerve-wracking. What are you going to make? What kind of materials should you use? What if you can't execute it? What if it sucks? Studies show that despite these fears, engaging in any sort of visual expression results in a reward pathway in the brain being activated, says Kamal, which means that you feel good and it's perceived as a pleasurable experience. She and the team of researchers discovered this in a 2017 paper published in the Journal of Arts of Psychotherapy. They measured blood flow to the brain's reward centers, the medial prefrontal cortex, in 26 participants as they completed 3 art activities: coloring in a mandala, doodling, and drawing freely on a blank sheet of paper. And indeed, the researchers found an increase in blood flow to this part of the brain when participants were making art. This research suggests making art may have benefit for people dealing with health conditions that activate the reward pathways in the brain, like addictive behaviors, eating disorders, or mood disorders, the researchers wrote. Although the research in this field of art therapy is emerging, there's evidence that making art can lower stress and anxiety. In a 2016 paper in the Journal of American Art Therapy Association, Kamal and a group of researchers measured cortisol levels in 39 healthy adults. Cortisol is a hormone that helps the body respond to stress. They found that 45 minutes of creating art in a studio setting with an art therapist significantly lowered cortisol levels. The paper also showed that there were no differences in health outcomes between people who identify as experienced artists and people who don't. So that means that no matter your skill level, you'll be able to feel good about all the things that come with making art. These things might give one good reasons to check out such art. Many creative abilities, none of the best to clean up. I know my stuff doesn't come out that great, especially trying to translate brush movement through using a mouse, but that's okay. There's still benefits to my brain even if I'm far from an experienced artist, but it's still fun. I've been finding simple drawing tutorials online and seeing if I can reproduce them in such art with a few originals thrown in. The multitude of tools available could probably be better utilized than what I'm doing with them, but the game does allow for brushstroke blending that's better than I thought a simple game might achieve. I'm sure people with some more experience could figure it out, and a lot more could be done with it. I do recommend this one for anyone who's looking to get creative. I happened to get this in a bundle deal off of Fanatical for only a few dollars factored out amongst the other games, making it totally worth it. But you can also find it on Steam for $24.99 retail. And if you're not sure this is for you, there's a demo that's downloadable for free if you search up Such Art Creative Space. Someday I'll fill up this gallery with my practice art. Maybe I'll even revisit an extra science on how the arts interact with the brain in a subsequent video. Thanks for watching, y'all. Take care, and bye-bye!